Mr. Özel, firstly, I would like to thank you for accepting our invitation and attending the 7th Czech Foreign Policy Symposium and make this interview possible.
It's a pleasure.
Now I would like to proceed with my questions. There are many theories that were proposed after the end of the Cold War, such as clash of civilizations and the end of the history. How would you describe the current world order?
Well, when you look at the world, the clash of civilizations thesis appears to be materializing. But I think what we are witnessing is a transitional period where the old order can no longer hold its own and cannot address all the questions, all the problems in the world, because power is being distributed much more differently today than it was back in 1989. And those actors that may be more influential in the next world order have not yet gained the wherewithal, the capacity to set up new rules, new norms, or new institutions. So we are left with the old institutions, with the hegemonic power that actually put those institutions together, the United States, weaker than it was in relative terms, certainly, than it was before, at a time when plenty of other nations that are up and coming are unwilling to accept altogether the package that is being offered by the old order.
So, do you believe it is an occasional shift from the liberal order?
Well, the liberal order itself is under attack, undoubtedly, but so far nobody has come up with a better alternative to propose that could be willingly accepted by the rest of the world either. So what we are still in the stages of pushing for a reform of the existing liberal order that has been cracked. That it, as I said, it does not respond, or it is incapable of responding to the changing structural circumstances in the world. And we'll see whether or not that reformation process can be undertaken. Undoubtedly, those countries that are in a privileged position in the current world order institutionally, such as the UN Security Council 5 and all that, do not readily wish to give up that power, and that is unsustainable in my judgment in the long run, and that will be more of a threat to the liberal order.
Although Russia is one of the privileged countries and have permanent seat in the UN Security Council, the Russian President Vladimir Putin clearly stated that the new rules or no rules. So, do you believe that there will be a serious debate on the UN Security Council reform or international reform?
The debate has been there, but the unwillingness of the five is also there. I mean, you cannot really explain why a country like India or a Japan or South Africa, maybe an Arab country, are not, Brazil, are not permanent members of the Security Council, or why you still have this absolute right of veto in the Security Council, why you cannot have weighted votes. So the institution is cracking because it is not being able to respond to the realities of the new world.
So what do you think about the Turkey's attitude? Why Turkey seeks an alternative foreign policy despite its membership to NATO and the integration process to the European Union?
Well, the thing is, Turkey sought, in different times also, not just recently, enough space for autonomous action. The fact that Turkey is a member of NATO and that it is seeking to be a member of the EU does not necessarily mean that it has to adjust to their policies. Moreover, there are so many different voices within NATO and within the European Union. For instance, obviously, the southern countries and eastern countries in the European Union do not share the same vision about what Russia had done in the Ukraine or how to respond to it. The same goes for NATO. Therefore, it's not unusual. When Turkish-EU relations were moving in the right direction, Turkey's compliance level with European Union positions was about 96%. It's pretty high, that is. And now, because that order is no longer around, there are very different voices. Still, I think on the Ukraine issue, for instance, Turkey at first was close to Germany. It did take an exemption on sanctions, but by and large, it doesn't rock the boat. It does not do anything threatening to the common positions that were upheld.
So do you believe the long and complex integration process of Turkey to European Union caused an emotional break between Turkey and Europe?
There is an emotional break. I don't think Turkey alone is responsible for it. Although, again, its rulers obviously do not have their heart in the European Union project anymore. But it was the Europeans that may have prepared the ground, and by their behavior pushed Turkey away from the European Union. Under those circumstances, I still think nearly 50% support for EU membership, which is so distant now, it's almost invisible in Turkey, suggests that at least in terms of their interests, the Turks are still very rationally desiring membership in the European Union.
So is it more related with the Erdogan administration? Did he decisively change the official framework policy of the Republic?
No, because again, I'll repeat what I said earlier, it takes two to tango. If you look at the European policy, EU policy, certainly the policy of two major countries in the Union, that is France and Germany. They have, I mean, France particularly has been extraordinarily crass and kind of antagonistic towards Turkey. Germany was more subtle, but Mrs. Merkel never never did hide the fact that she was not in favor of a Turkey in the European Union. So that's the European side, and as Turkey became, or as it started to acquire a higher profile in world politics, and particularly as it was at one point held up in such high esteem vis-à-vis its potential in the Middle East, it also thought that maybe Turkey could be an autonomous actor and use the Middle East as its playground, acquire more power by successes there, and that it would not need to deal with Europe anymore. Well, that has not come to pass, obviously, and we're going back to the structural parameters of Turkey, which is Turkey cannot ignore any of the three regional compacts that surround it, that is Europe, Caucasus, Russia, Central Asia, and the Middle East. Given the pretty dire conditions of the Middle East today, the European Union still appears as a good anchor. And I'm of the opinion, of course, also that with the nearly defunct accession process, we may try to build trust between the EU and Turkey by cooperating on a dramatic issue such as the refugee crisis, and that may actually build confidence, and then we may move forward.
And what about the other major political parties? What kind of change do they promise to their electors in foreign policy? Well,
MHP doesn't really have a foreign policy platform. HDP, by its very nature, would favor the European Union process. And CHP is now more unequivocally pro-European Union than it has been in a long, long time. Therefore, we can say that the opposition would like to take Turkey back on track. But for there to be a track, there also has to be more honesty and will on the part of the European Union for such an eventuality.
And do you have any predictions about the future of Turkish foreign policy after the end of the AK Party's dominant government?
I think already, without acknowledging it, the AKP government is trying to alter its positions. There is still points of resistance, such as insisting that Assad must go before any solution to the Syria crisis can be found, which is a non-starter under the existing circumstances, not because I love Bashar al-Assad. I hope that he burns in hell, but realities are realities, and especially with the Russian moves, Turkey is really left all alone, maybe with Saudi Arabia, and I'm not quite sure that this is necessarily a good partner for Turkey. And that, of course, and Turkey has a problem convincing everyone that it does not favor or that it has its heart in the fight against IS, and the fixation with Syrian Kurds and their organization, PYD, is also, in my judgment, hurting Turkey's chances to be a much more active and much more prominent factor in the search for solutions. In that sense, the AKP is restricted by its ideological proclivities, but the new foreign minister, in my judgment, is probably trying to change certain things on the ground. And in a different administration, if we do have a coalition government where the foreign minister will go to the partner party rather than to the AKP, we may see more dramatic changes.
Yeah, thank you for your answers.
Thank you.